Yeah. Members of our community come to this event with a strong belief that, this law is wrong. And we are so passionate about voicing our concerns and stopping this law in our state. And besides that, we started to learn new lessons in our life in this country. We started to work with legislators, voice our concerns, let them know our perspective and our initiative. And we organize different community events to let legislators and political candidates be aware of our concerns. So our goal is to repeal this law, is to stop ethnic data disaggregation collection in our state. But right now, we have to handle the implementation of this law because it's already law. So one major thing is how we respond to the data collection form that is going to send out to every student and family in the future. So the Minnesota Department of Education has been responsible designing the data collection form. At the very beginning, it was really confusing, unclear, or even misguiding. For example, this is state law states that the collection of those sensitive and detailed ethnic data is optional. But at the very first version of this form, it says, please respond to all the questions below to let the family to believe that they need to fill out those detailed information. So basically for Asian American, in the past, it's only required that we fill out whether we are Asian American or not. But now with this new law, we need to check, whether we are Asian Indian, Chinese, Burmese, it separates Asian American into 8 detailed ethnic categories. And the volunteers from our community started interaction with the Minnesota Department of Education in October, at the very first community feedback meeting hosted by Minnesota Department of Education to voice our concerns and a disagreement about the very first version of forms. And in the last few months, we will have at least 7 meetings with the Minnesota Department of Education, and our volunteers and community members participate every community feedback meeting on this forum, on this law, hosted by Minnesota Department of Education. So based on our strong feedbacks and concerns, the Minnesota Department of Education finally take our voice seriously. They evolved at least 4 versions of the firm based on the feedbacks from our community. And now this is the latest form to be used in the upcoming school year at the 5 pilot school districts. With our volunteers' efforts, there are many improvements. Now at the very top of the form, it provides a space for parents' signature. So every parent will be aware of this new law and this new data collection. It cannot be just filled out by the kids or the classroom teacher. And now it clearly stated, please respond to both the questions below. Italicized questions are optional. So these are the italicized questions. So make it clear that if we don't want, we can just stay still at the level of the federal requirement. We can decline to provide further information. So into each ethnic category, with our efforts, now the Minnesota Department of Education put out decline to indicate at the very top of those options. And also state very clearly If you don't fill out, it will not be answered by school staff. So these photos are taken from the meetings that we had with the Minnesota Department of Education, MDE. The left up corner, that's the photo of the very first meeting took place back in October 2017. Over 30 members from our community participate. And this one, right up corner, is the meeting of Minnetonka School District parents to meet with the superintendent to voice their concerns. And here's the photo from the meeting with the Department of Education Commissioner to make a strong statement about our concerns regarding this ethnic data disaggregation. And this very lower right corner, that's from the latest meeting hosted by the Minnesota Department of Education. So all we had in looking at this latest version of ethnic data collection form, it showed a result of strong commitment and efforts from our community, especially those volunteers. So talking about this specific ethnic data collection form, we hope that our response to this data disaggregation is decline to be divided, which means if any of our parents or family, when they receive this ethnic data collection form from their school district, we can choose yes, we can choose yes to indicate that, yes, we are Asian American. But then in the subcategories, we call for the choice of decline to indicate. By selecting decline to indicate, which is meant to say no to the detailed ethnic data collection and demonstrate our disagreement to this ethnic data disaggregation. So what we want to do is really that more parents, families be aware of using this choice, decline to indicate, to show a strong disagreement to the Minnesota Department of Education and also the supporters of this discriminatory law. And besides filling out the form in the above suggested way, we can also do more as a community. So each community can actually contact the school district, the superintendent, school board, and also the Minnesota Department of Education about this new law and also this upcoming data collection form, and also contact your legislators to let you know about the issue and our concerns. Because once you take a small step to send an email, to make phone calls, to have a conversation with those stakeholders, you start to become an activist to actually make changes happen. Here I want to share a little bit more about what a community can do with the school district. I'm getting involved with parents' meetings with both Minnetonka School District Superintendent and also Eden Prairie Superintendent back in February and April. And as a community member, you can actually schedule meetings with those leaderships and voice your concerns. Here are just a more kind of like experience and tips that we've learned from our experience. Get organized by a few volunteers in the community, started with an email or phone calls to schedule a meeting, introduce yourself and request a meeting, and then organized a working group to prepare the meeting talk points and the key things you want to convey to the leadership at the school district. And also involve the whole community using WeChat social media group to let more parents be aware of this issue and be willing to participate at those meetings. And when you have a meeting with those school superintendents or school board members, after you share all those concerns and ask specifically what could be done, from their perspective, you can ask them to provide feedbacks to Department of Education, and also provide advice and suggestions on the floor. So one big lesson learned from dealing with this ethnic data disaggregation law is that for our community is to really get involved in policy making, know our legislators, and be aware of legislations. We don't want to be left out and then have to handle all the implications or bad results from a bad law. So with those initiatives and efforts, actually our community has really been waking up politically, and we participate different parades, walking with our supported candidates to show our supports. And beside those, we also provide supports in many different ways to our supported candidates, including fundraising initiatives for many different candidates at different level. So before I end my sharing, I really want to share this famous quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Because his dream is still our dream. But besides, we want to fight against any discrimination or judgment based on the color of our kids' skin. We also want to fight any discrimination based on ethnicity. So Dr. King's dream is still away from us. And in today's society, maybe even further from us. But we cannot stop our efforts to make his dream come true. So as Chinese American, we believe in Minnesota is our home, with hardworking efforts, hardworking ethics, and also civic participation. We really want to make our efforts to contribute to building a stronger and a fairer state for the better future of every kid in our state. And we love diversity. We embrace diversity because diversity enriches our country, enriches our society, but the diversity does not justify division. So we really want to make a call to all the policymakers and political leaders that making policies that unite us, not dividing us. I think we still have some time for Q&A. Okay, yeah. So right now, we have open session for questions and answers. I'm more than willing to answer some of the questions from audience. But I want to share with the two questions are frequently or often raised up to our concerns and efforts. The first question, someone would say, on the floor, ethnic data part is already optional. I mean, is it enough for your community? Some legislators give us such an answer, or some supporters of this discriminatory data disaggregation law responded this way. But we will say no, because by making it optional, it does not change this law. This discriminatory law is still a state law in Minnesota, and it will have its long-term effect on every family, in every corner of our society. And every minority student's family, every year, they will still receive the form, giving them choices to fill out, whether they are Chinese, whether they are Vietnamese. And this will make them wonder, why us? Why are we being treated like this? So make it optional is not enough. We really want to stop the whole thing, stop this discriminatory law in our state. And the second question very often asked is, will the repeal of data disaggregation hurt the students in need, especially some minority students? And our answer is no, because the state has already collected many detailed information that will enable the educators and teachers to find which students or which group are in need of academic support. Without collecting those sensitive and problematic and controversial ethnic data, the government and the school teachers should already be aware of how to allocate resources to support those students that in need.
Chair, I have a point to the second one, because data, they have data or not, doesn't matter. If they have matter, every student reach some standard level. That's the major point. They should not say, well, this child belongs to this minority, and he should receive support, and the other students should get it not. The point is all students,
Yes.
if they do not reach some level, then they get help.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah. So that's a kind of like providing really equal opportunities and equal supports for every student in need. But now that playing an ethnicity card and favor one group and not others, and ignoring all other students that are in need. Thank you very much. Okay.
So how long will it take to appeal the law?
That's a very good question.
How long to repeal the law?
That's a very good question. That's exactly the question we are wondering, basically every day. Because it depends on how much we could convince our legislators to believe in our statement and choose to support our initiative, because we need majority votes against or to repeal this law in both the Senate and House in our state. So that's the reason why a group of very passionate volunteers in our community kept on working with our legislators and try to convince them and help them to believe this law is not right. It got a good intention to start with, but it got much more hazardous results that many legislators didn't get a chance to realize, but to hear when this bill was discussed at both the Senate and House floors in our state. If everything goes smoothly in this new legislative session in the spring of the next year, we will have both the senators and representatives to sponsor a bill to repeal this ethnic data disaggregation, which means to remove the collection of ethnic data from the law and keep everything else.
I think we need a majority of the Republican in the House, a majority of the Republican in the Senate, and then we need a Republican